going to do a little story time while I took off this makeup. I was just playing in it, so I'm ready to take it off. I'm going to be using my Garnier the hyaluronic acid and aloe vera one with my cleansing pad. And then I'm going to go in with my CeraVe face wash and lotion. Let's get into the story time. So this story is going to be my birth story of my first child, okay? So my sister's birthday is December 14th. And so my due date was December 22nd. And she was just like, we had been hearing, you know, how people give birth at any time. It doesn't have to be on your due date, blah, 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 blah. So she was just like, oh, you better not give birth on my birthday. Mind you, this is my baby sister, so she is a baby. You better not give birth on my birthday. It's my day, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, girl. I don't get to pick. But her birthday is also the day that I went in. And they did my, what's that thing called? The mucus sweep. So that did happen on her birthday. Or was it the 15th? It was the 15th. I went in my mucus sweep on the 15th, December 15th, right? And you don't hear a lot about that online, but it was not fun. I didn't enjoy it. It hurt. And yeah, the mucus sweep was not fun. But anyways, I went for the mucus sweep on the 15th. And the rest of the day I was chilling. But rewind. On December 14th, the night of December 14th, I was having contractions. That night, I was like, I don't know what this is feeling. Like, I don't know what this feeling is. Like, what is this? I couldn't tell if I was in labor or if it was Braxton Hicks. My entire pregnancy with my first kid, literally a breeze. I mean, I wouldn't have even known I was pregnant if my husband didn't ask me when my period was coming. Because I don't really check my period app. I just go in there to put when my period came. So if he didn't ask me when my period was coming, I wouldn't have already checked and saw that it was late. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to the hubs. But he was like, hey, when's your period coming? And I was like, oh, I just gave him an answer. I think I was like, oh, it's coming like in a few days or something, because I didn't know. And then I checked the app and I was like, when is it coming? And I checked the app and it was like a day late or something. And I was like, what? But anyway, so the night of the 14th, I was having contractions. And I was just like, oh. So my whole pregnancy was smooth sailing. The entire pregnancy was smooth sailing. It didn't even feel like I was pregnant. I had no food aversions. I had no cravings. I had no Braxton Hicks. I wasn't nauseous. I just grew. I literally just grew a baby. It was the best first pregnancy I think anybody could ever have. It was very, very, it was very demure. Okay, it was very demure. See, I loved everything about my first pregnancy. So when these contractions started, I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? Like, But I didn't want to freak out. Like, I'm the type that's like, I'll panic in silence first before I like sound the alarms, you know, before I think anybody needs to get involved. So I was just like laying in the bed, feeling these feelings. And I was like, okay, this is odd, but I'm going to try to like sleep it off. Yeah, this is my thought process. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to like, go to sleep because I don't know what this is and I feel fine. I'm gonna just try to go to sleep. So I let like the contractions do whatever they were doing and I go to sleep. So it turns out those were Braxton Hicks. Because when I went in the 15th, I was like, I had talked about him and they're like, oh, okay, that could be a sign that the baby's coming. And when I told my mom, she was like, oh, it sounds like you were having contractions. I was like, oh, okay, like, cool. So I was like, okay, now I know what they kind of feel like. She was like, oh, those are Braxton Hicks. I'm like, oh, okay, like, who would have thought? So then, when the following day, when I was pregnant with my first kid, I always used to have a slushie every night. I had a slushie. So following night, I got my slushie. This is the night, the 15th. Okay, I lay down. So my like I don't know what time I went to bed, but I woke up around midnight. And I was feeling those pains again. And I was like, okay, my mom says they're back in the Hicks, it should blow over. It wasn't blowing over. So I was taking notes. At 2:28 is when I logged my first contraction. And it lasted for like 30 seconds. And then the next one was at 2:35. And the next one was at 2:43. And then 2:51. So they're not exactly 10 minutes apart, but then they start to become 10 minutes apart. So around 4 a.m., I had one at 4:12. Then I had it again at 4:22. Then I had another one at 4:30. But then here's the big jump at 4:54. So they're irregular, right? Then at 5:08, then 5:15, like very irregular. But around, like around 6 o'clock in the morning, they became 10 minutes apart. All the way until I gave birth. Let me tell y'all. So my contractions were 10 minutes apart. And so I called my mom. I'm like, okay, my stomach is still doing the thing. And she was like, oh, maybe you're in labor. And I'm just like, okay, so did I go to the hospital? She was like, no, it's too early. Go figure. Y'all, my hospital was 30 to 45 minutes away from my house. So I didn't know when to go to the hospital. But all throughout pregnancy, everybody was like, oh, you'll know when to go. Oh, you'll know. Oh, you have a feeling. Y'all, I really didn't know when to go. And I hated hearing that throughout my entire pregnancy. Oh, you'll know, blah, 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 blah. So, they were 10 minutes apart. And I was just like chilling around the house. Like I was just sitting down watching TV or trying to like, I didn't have it got in my eye. Oh my gosh. I didn't have one of those bouncy balls. So I was using like my mattress. I was still in the corner of my mattress and just like bounce. I don't think it did anything, but that's what I did. And when I was walking inside the house, like when I was walking up and down the hallway of my house, my contractions were like 2 to 5 minutes apart. They were really close. And I was like, okay, do I go now? I was like, when do I go? But whenever I would just sit down and chill, they were 10 minutes apart. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't know if I should go or not. And that was the most nerve-wracking I had been my entire pregnancy. Like I said, my pregnancy was smooth sailing. So at that point, I was like, what do I do? And so I think my mom told me to like relax or I think she'll say, I'll know. Oh, you'll know. Like, I forgot. But either way, it became, so the last time I logged my contraction was at 11:30. And I went to go eat lunch. Like, I stayed home because I wanted to eat, because I've been hearing all these things like, oh, you can't eat when you're pregnant. Like, when you're in the hospital, they won't let you eat, blah, blah, blah. And one thing about me is I'm going to eat. Like, my whole entire pregnancy, I had breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I had snacks throughout the day. One thing about me is I'm going to eat. So, with that being said, I stayed home so I could eat. I had little snacks. I wasn't really hungry because of the contractions, but I had a little snack. And then the thing that made me want to go to the hospital was that I had one contraction that was a big contraction. Like, this contraction was it was more painful than the other ones. And they say contractions are like period cramps, but no, they're not. My period cramps are like very strong. They hurt. There's no breathing through them. Like, my period cramps suck. But these contractions were just like uncomfortable. I don't know. Like, they weren't really that bad for me. And so, but I had one that was like really strong, really intense. And I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just go. So, my hospital bag was already in the car because I didn't want to have to fumble with it. It already had chargers and everything in there. So we just got in the car and left. The whole way to the hospital, I'm having contractions like 3 minutes apart. And they're strong contractions the entire way to the hospital. Mind you, the hospital is like 30 to 45 minutes away. So I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this is like really happening. Oh my goodness, like, I'm about to have a baby. I was really excited. And y'all, tell me why as soon as my husband parks the car, all contractions stop. I mean, I'm walking into the hospital, not a single contraction. Going to the elevator, taking the elevator up to whatever floor it was on, not a single contraction. Not one. And I was like, bro, don't tell me we just came all this way for them to send me back home. Because that's also another thing. Like, I didn't want to go all the way out there for them to be like, oh, you're not ready, and to send me home. That's 30, 45-minute drive. No, you're not sending me home. So when we got there, I'm not having any contractions. I'm like, oh my goodness, great. They're going to send me home. We get to the desk, and it's my turn to check in. And I'm like, well, I think I'm having contractions. Because now at this point, I didn't know. I'm like, I was. Now I'm not. Like, I didn't have a single one. I was like, I'm thinking I'm having contractions. Like, I'm just here to get checked out. And they're like, okay, like, this is fine. So they check me in. They tell us to sit down in like the little waiting room area. So me and my husband are sitting down. And they called me to the back. They make him stay out there. They called me to the back. Hooked me up to the machines. Y'all, still no contractions. So I'm just sitting in the room. I'm texting him. I'm like, okay, like, nothing's happening. And he's asking me, like, how do I feel? I'm like, I feel fine. There's just no contractions. Then, y'all, like, out of nowhere, I had like a huge contraction. I'm like, okay, great. They'll see it on the little monitor that I had a contraction. They'll tell me like what was popping with it. So after like 30 minutes of me being in there, I think I had 2 contractions, maybe 3. But there's only one like really big one. So the lady comes back, she's like, oh wow, I see you just had a big one. I'm like, yeah. And then my husband, then they finally bring my husband in. And they're like, okay, we're going to like check your cervix or whatever and see how much you're dilated. I was like, okay, cool. They check and they're like, okay, you're 5 centimeters. Like, and they're like, you're a stretchy 5 though. So you can stay if you want or you can go home. I said, no, I'm gonna stay. And I was happy. Like, I was so happy. I was like, no, I'm gonna stay because that's what I wanted. Like, I wanted to go to the hospital and be checked in. Like, I didn't want to go and then they send me back home. And I didn't want that. Like, I wanted to go and they say, okay, we're gonna check you. Like, so when that happened, I was very happy. I was like, no, I'm gonna stay. I said, okay. I don't know what a stretchy 5 means. I guess that means it's about to be a 6. So why would they send me home? I don't know. But that's what she said. She said, okay, you're 5 centimeters, but it's a stretchy 5. So you can stay if you want or you can go home. So I said, okay, I'm going to stay. So after that, I look at my husband. I'm like, I don't want to have a baby. I'm like excited. And I can, like, he's a little nervous, but he's excited, whatever. They check us in. They get us to the room. and they were asking me like what type of like pain treatment or whatever I wanted to do. And I knew for a fact I did not want to do the epidural. I knew my entire pregnancy. I knew when I was a little girl. I knew I did not want an epidural. But so you know how they tell you about the 3 different types, the epidural, the IV, or the like the laughing gas one? I went with the IV. I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll do a little IV drip. So when I got there, they gave me the little IV thing. And later on, I found out that it makes you sleepy. So after they gave it to me, I instantly, like, y'all was asleep. Like the entire time, I was asleep. And like the nurses came in and they were like, oh, are you like, do you want anything to eat? Mind you, I'm surprised. Cause I'm like, oh, they asked me if I want food. I thought I couldn't eat. But the IV was making me so tired. I was like, no, like I'm fine. They had the lights off. It was chilling. But we got there, right? Y'all. I wasn't about to text my whole family, oh, we're at the hospital, oh, this is this. I just told my husband to call my mom. My mom is like the newscast person of the family. So you tell her, she gonna let everybody else know. So, and we have a family group chat. I just didn't even want to put in a group chat. I said, call my mom, let her know. But he called my mom, he told her, hey, we're at the hospital, like Diamond's in labor. And she was, I don't even know what she said because I didn't hear the phone. I wasn't on the phone. He was. So, but I know that she said to keep her updated. So, yeah, but anyway, so back to the nurse. The nurse was like, do you want anything to eat? And I was like, no. They're like, okay, we'll bring it just in case. And I was like, sounds good. Because, yeah, I always be hungry, but I just didn't, whatever. So I go back to sleep. And next thing I know, I feel like this big pressure. And it just like pops. And it wakes me up. I'm like, and my husband's like, what happened? What happened? Because, he's sitting on the little sofa by the bed on his phone, chilling, doing whatever, because I'm asleep. So he's cooling. And I'm like, he's like, what happened? What happened? I'm like, I think my water broke or something. So, but I'm like groggy. I'm like sleepy, like, oh, my water broke. Like, I'm very tired. So he clicked the little red button. He was like, and the nurse was like, hello. He was like, oh, she said her water broke. So they came in and they're like, yep, it broke. They changed my sheets and everything. I went back to sleep. But yeah, my water literally felt like if you had a balloon and you just popped it on the water felt, that's how it felt for me. It didn't just trickle down my leg, how they say, or you just had a little drop. Like, no, it felt like a balloon burst and I was soaked. Okay, so that's how my water broke. Naturally by itself, and it just was a huge thing. Woke me up. So after they gave me new sheets whenever I fell back asleep. And the IV, I also didn't know, the IV wears off. And mine definitely did, because when it was time to give birth, I felt everything, which is fine because that's what I wanted. But so after I go back to sleep, I'm asleep. And I feel like this big pressure. And I didn't say anything. I was thugging in silence again. I was just taking it. And it went away. And then it came back and I was like, And then my husband's like, what's wrong? What's going on? What's going on? And I'm like, I think the baby's coming. That's all I said to y'all. I was like, I think the baby's coming. So he pushed the button, took the little red button for the nurses. And they're like, hi, what's going on? He was like, she said that she thinks the baby's coming. Next thing I know, it's like in a movie. 15 nurses, doctors, everybody started running in. I'm just looking at them but I'm tired. I'm like, what's happening? Start running in. And they check. And they're like, yeah, baby's coming, you ready to push? I'm like, my it was so quick, but not really. So backtrack. I get to the hospital around 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and she was born at 10 o'clock at night, like 10:30 something. I don't remember, but it was like at 10 something at night. So that's how long the labor was. So it started at my contraction started at 2 a.m. and I gave birth at 10 p.m. just to round it all up. Okay, so Dr. Brennan's like, yeah, it's time to push. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I hold my husband's hand, and here comes the traction. I'm pushing. Ooh, and I feel it. I push. And they're like, okay, that's good. And y'all, the one thing about me is like, I don't know how to scream and push. I can't, that's too many things to focus on. I felt the contraction. I was just like pushing as I'm breathing out. I didn't have time to scream. So I was just like, and they're like, okay, that was great. Contraction stopped. Then, here comes another one. I was like, okay. So I'm holding his hand. I'm just like, my husband's like, you're doing great. Like, you're awesome, blah, blah. He's giving me all the right words. Baby, you're doing great, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, he knows. Like, I'm doing great, blah, blah, blah. I was feeling it, okay? Shout out to that man. Because he was really making me think I was the MVP of giving birth. But so was my doctors, because they were just like, you didn't scream, like, nothing. So, okay, here's another contraction. Now, this is where I feel the ring of fire. For those who don't know, the ring of fire is when you feel the baby's head, like, coming through. So I was like, when I felt that, I was like, oh! I'm exaggerating. When I felt that, I was just like, ooh. And they were like, yeah, she's coming. And I was like, I talked to my husband. I was like, I don't think I can push through that. And they're like, you're almost there. Like, you can do it. And I'm not going to lie, y'all. Like, that part did hurt. It felt like, what's the way I can explain it? Imagine having like a paper cut and you're just like spreading it open. And it's like getting, I don't know how to explain the ring of fire. It just burns, but it hurts. I don't know. So when I felt it, the initial pushing of the head, I was like, ooh, I don't think I can push through that. And they're like, no, you got it. Like, you can do it. Like, you are owning this birth. Like, you're doing great. My husband's like, baby, like, you got it. Like, you're good. You could do anything, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay, so here comes my next contraction. And in my head, I'm talking myself up in my head. I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, it ain't nothing. Like, the doctors hyping me up. My husband hyping me up. So in my head, I'm like, yeah, I got it. So my next contraction comes. I'm like, oof, I'm pushing. And they're like, great. Then, boop, the head come out. So here's the head. Head is out. They're like, okay, one more push. And we're going to get the shoulders out and bring her on home. I'm like, all right. So husband's like, okay, you're doing great. I'm like, all right, I'm doing great. So next contraction come. I push. Here she comes. Boop. And I had a short umbilical cord, so she couldn't even come all the way up here, y'all. Like, she had to stop at my belly button, like on my belly. And I was just holding her. I was like, oh, cause my umbilical cord was short. My husband cut the cord. It wasn't immediately after. Like, I did the delayed cord clamping, but I was just holding her. And then after some time, he cut the cord. I brought her up. I wanted to try to breastfeed. And she latched, so that's cool. But y'all, delivering the placenta, why can't it just come out when the baby come out? Because that was actually worse than giving birth. Delivering the placenta hurt so bad. And it was like, After you give birth, they're like pushing on your stomach, trying to move the placenta. And I'm like, yo. That hurt more than the birth. In my experience, I don't know about anybody else's, but in my experience, the placenta hurt more. So after they get the placenta, I'm like looking at my baby girl. I'm like, look, like we did it. And I feel like my husband was like in shock in this moment because he was just like, yeah. But I'm like, baby, look, like we have a little girl. And he was like, yeah. And I'm like excited, but I'm also like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, I have a baby. So yeah, but so after they like take her and they weigh her, she was 6 pounds 9 ounces, and she was 19 inches. Born at 10 something at night. And so after I gave birth, I'm like, oh, where's my food? And my husband's like, oh, I ate it. Sir, come again. This man sat here and ate my food. Granted, I wasn't mad because we was there for a little bit of time. He didn't want to leave my side. He was hungry. I was asleep. The food was there. Go ahead, eat it. But so after I gave birth, I was like, oh, what is it? Like, can I get food? And they're like, oh, the kitchen's closed. What? So they're like, okay, we'll see if we can like get some snacks, whatever. I'm like, yeah, do that. Just pretend a baby, I'm hungry. So after like I did the whole birth and whatever, you give birth and labor and delivery, and they take you to maternity or whatever. I don't know. But y'all, this is in 2020, December 2020. So this is during COVID. So it was like only one person could be in the room when I gave birth. All these rules. So yeah, I mean, not like I had family with me where I was at anyway, but even if I wanted to, like I couldn't. They took me to the little the room, and I was just so mesmerized, so in love with this baby girl. And like I said, my birth plan, it went up according to plan, really. I didn't really have a birth plan for my first birth. I was just like, I just want to give birth naturally to a healthy baby girl. I didn't want to have to get a C-section. I didn't want to have to get induced. I didn't want to have to have any complications. I just didn't want anything. I wanted it to be as smooth as possible. And so I just prayed over that my entire pregnancy, just a smooth sailing pregnancy, a healthy baby, 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, like 2 ears that can hear, 2 eyes that can see, a mouth that can speak, a nose that can smell, 10 fingers that can move, 10 toes that, like, I just was praying over that my entire pregnancy. And so I really didn't have a birth plan besides give birth naturally to a happy baby. And that's exactly what happened. And the nurses were like, wow, like that was fast. Like I only pushed like 5 times. And they're like, that was less than 30 minutes. They're like, that was a quick birth and you didn't even scream. And I was like, do people always scream? And they're like, yeah. When they were wheeling me out, the room next to me, the mom was going berserk in there. And I was just like, oh, I see. Like, yeah, I was really chilling. And after that birth, I knew that I wanted to have another because it was just so great. And baby girl, she was such an easy baby. When I said baby didn't cry, she didn't cry. She just sat there like most babies do. But my other birth stories are a different story. My other two, I had a birth plan. And the birth plan went out the window. Okay? So if you want to hear my other birth stories, please comment down below because those two are stories that you can't even fathom what's happening. It's just like boom, 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 boom. Like, whoosh. But my first birth was absolutely beautiful, very peaceful. I loved everything about it. And like I said, this is just my birth story. And if you are pregnant and you're just wondering like how you think your birth is gonna go, let me tell you, the most amazing part about giving birth is seeing your baby's face for the first time. Just when you see your baby's face for the first time, see what they really look like, and just to hold them, that's the reward of it all. That's my favorite part every single time. So don't feel nervous. Well, I'm not gonna say that. You might feel nervous, but just be in the moment, okay? Try to remember everything. Try to like take little voice memos, write stuff down, whatever, because even though you think you might forget, it's just a day that you will never forget. I remember all my kids' births perfectly, and it's just a day that you're never going to forget. So that's my birth story for my first baby, who was born in 2020. She'll be 4 this December. So yeah, if you want to hear my other birth stories, just comment down below. I'll be happy to tell them, because I love talking about my birth stories and how my birth plans, how they went according to plan, and where they failed at the plan, where the plan went right and I went left. I love talking about my birth. I love hearing other birth stories. So yes, if you want to hear my birth story, just comment down below and I'll be happy to share. Y'all, I didn't even get to finish washing my face. So I'm about to go finish washing my face. Thanks for tuning in and listening to my story. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.